Hi, my name is Soila, and you're listening to Heartland, a fan podcast from a fan perspective. That's better. For audio listeners, I'm rocking a bandana on my head. I went to this Halloween shop and I was like, hey, can you help me find something that'll make me look like I'm in Mongolia when I'm not? And they said, I know just the thing. And that is how this outfit came together. One could easily mistake me for Ty Borden or Bob Granger, but everyone makes mistakes sometimes, so that's okay. So if you didn't guess already, today I'm gonna go back to 2016, back when the show was filming season 10, and it was an interesting year. If you weren't here back then, or if you just don't remember, maybe you've blocked that year out of your life, which I understand. This was after season 9, obviously, and people were kind of getting restless because, on one hand, they didn't like that Ty missed so many episodes in season 9, but on the other hand, the show gave us a tease of what's to come, which is the Tammy baby, which we now know her as Lindy Borden. So it was kind of, it could go either way sort of thing. And unfortunately, I feel like this is where some of villain original stories were written by accident by the writers. And I think this is where some type of crack happened within the fandom, and this sort of division began because people were not happy with the season. I'm not saying it was completely crap, but for the most part, it was on the level of season 8 when Ty and Abby were broken up and people were getting restless and they didn't like what they were seeing. And so it was sort of interesting to be on the forefront about certain things, because this insider that I have referred to in a previous episode, I'll include the link in the description of the YouTube video. They had some information about what's to come, and meanwhile, other fans were just, sort of guessing based on what was tweeted at that time or posted on Instagram or on the blog or whatever. I think in a way it was both good and bad that I knew all of this. The reason why it was bad was because I didn't like the sound of a lot of things that were to come. So it was frustrating to kind of know what was going to happen, but not being able to do anything about it or even speak to anyone about it. But at the same time, knowing some of the stuff, it really helped me prepare for certain aspects, and especially the reaction from the fandom, because at this time there was a lot of speculation on my blog. We were talking about what could possibly come out of the clues that they were giving to us. In some ways I had to act dumb because I didn't just want to give it away that I was still in contact with this insider. So I was like, I guess we'll see. But of course, I didn't know all of it, so there was definitely some guessing on my part. So, like I said, after season 9, people were not happy about Ty missing some of the episodes, but the insider was like, well, you're not gonna like season 10 if you didn't like that, because it's gonna get worse. So yeah, they not only gave the scoops, but also shared some of their personal reaction to what they were receiving at their end. So this is part of it is spoilers and part of it is their reaction. So back in spring 2016, they said the number of Ty's absences was bent in back when the season was laid out last spring. So we know now that Graham was sort of one foot out of the door already. So it already, gives us a perspective that, this moving forward thing was sort of already happening. And yeah, we just didn't know that it would end up being what it ended up being. But then they said back in April 2016, working title for episode 1 is There Will Be Changes, and episode 2 is You Just Know, since I saw you guys speculating on it just now in my feed. This was also the same year that I went to Canada for the first time because there was this Calgary International Film Festival event, and I knew some of this stuff. I really felt like a double agent because I pretended not to know, but I knew. So episode 1, There Will Be Changes, was the episode that I went to see on Calgary International Film Festival. So sitting there with other fans and just seeing their reactions while knowing some of the things that would happen was interesting. In a way, it was really fun to be a fan who was sort of in the know, but also just experience everything for the first time. So then back in May 2016, they said, this is just a vague heads up, but you need to brace yourself for probably a lot of unrest this coming season, since I know you're the resident sounding board. There's a very good chance Tammy fans are not likely going to get a lot of what they wanted out of this pregnancy, and the frustrations that still linger about Ahmed/Europe are going to be flipped in some ways. And then they said, not kissing/cheating, to be clear though. So yeah, I remember after season 9, when they announced a pregnancy with Amy, people were really excited. They were like, oh my gosh, I can just imagine all the little things that they're going to do with Ty and Amy and the baby, and it's going to be so cute, and all the little steps toward the baby being born. So knowing that we would barely get any of those things was really heartbreaking, because even though I wasn't fully on board of Amy being pregnant at the time, I was like, okay, so if they're going to do it well, they might sell it to me. But I have to say, I was really disappointed with the way they handle it. There were some funny stuff like Tim with the empathy belly and all that, but really what I wanted was to see Ty and Amy going forward with this journey together. Yeah, especially now, it's like it's their only child together, and there was none of that. So I feel like a lot of Tammy fans must feel very robbed by all of that. Yeah, I mean, I love Lindy now, but like back then, I just didn't like the way they were going forward with all of this. So I think that was a bigger problem rather than, what was actually, happening with Amy's pregnancy. And then they continued, if plays out, it's just something that is going to likely raise the ire of the fans who were looking forward to a lot of the pre-birth stuff, and those who would expect Ty, as his character has always been written, to actually value being around for Amy's pregnancy over, say, playing vet in Mongolia by complete choice, or for Amy to not just be an empty cheerleader when it would come to such a thing. So this was when they dropped the M-bomb, which is Mongolia. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what? Mongolia? Thai? Like, we've always sort of gotten like Elisa traveling to France or them visiting the States, which make more sense. But this Mongolia whole thing was just like completely left field. And I was like, this has to be like a joke. Like, you're giving me just this like random country that would not make sense. But then it ended up being true. The first 2 episodes, at least, are Georgie heavy in the white script, though not as Georgie heavy as the most from season 9. Episode 3 seems pretty balanced. Episode 4 seems Amy/Ty heavy. Also, Scott should be back, at least briefly. I know Nathaniel Arkin said otherwise on Twitter, but Ty and Amy get to tell him about Ty's good news in episode 4. Also, Jade slash Madison is tentatively penciled in for more total episodes on the casting sheet this season, which turned out to be true. And then there was something about a new character called Natalie, so we started speculating like who is she and what's going to be the storyline around her. And so they said Natalie is the new coach. Her being a hard ass plays a key role in the Georgie slash Olivia slash Sam plot in the first 2 episodes. Then there was some kind of teaser about a new character, but I don't think they revealed that much. So we were trying to think, who could this be? And then they revealed the other new character is a relative of Casey's that will also prove to be of interest to Jade. So that was obviously Clay. And then I had so many questions about Mongolia. Like, are you kidding me? Like, are we even going to see anything? Like, how is it going to work? And so they told me, I think they're going to show him over there in some capacity. I still don't have any part of the scripts beyond 4 yet, so I can't say for completely sure, but I have some animal and location specs, and I really don't see what else they could be for if not. Graham is currently on the sheet for 16 episodes, but it's marked tentative slash non-contractual, so that could change either way. I remember going to the set visit. There's a whole video series of these. I'll include the series in the description box as well if you haven't seen those videos. But there were little clues about Mongolia in Georgie's bedroom, and I was like, it really is true. Like, now I have to believe it, because why else would this stuff be here if not for it to be true? So I really had to face the facts when I was on set. And then they said, on a total, my opinion, and need to sort of vent front, I just find this whole bending vets without borders plot infuriating. Maybe they'll do a mad rewrites from what I have, but right now, though I love Graham, part of me legitimately wouldn't even care if Ty just stayed over there. Let's just sit with that for a minute. Okay, just the hypocrisy alone for him to do this now, married and expecting a child after breaking it off in season 8 over needing her to want the same things, be on the same path, and to stay the same girl. Gag. Mr. I'll always be there for you. Nothing is more important to me. Choosing to go chase whatever animals Heartland can wrangle up Pacific Ocean away instead of being there for her and supporting her while she's pregnant with her first child. Spoiler, after Tim gets on their case, they test drive a new truck in episode 4, and Amy can't even handle the drive without getting motion sickness. They don't buy one, by the way. Don't get your hopes up on that front. Ugh. Then they continued, unless I'm greatly underestimating a sexist double standard, which is sadly possible, Ty and the writers are going to get crushed over this, and it's going to be completely deserved, even if, or perhaps especially if, they have Amy push him to do it like a good little semi-Stepford wife. There are multiple scene directions where it specifies Amy noticing how much he wants this opportunity when the offer comes out for discussion. This is just my opinion, not based on anything concrete, but I don't think this story is happening because they need to give Graham episodes off, and this is the only way, though. I think that they really believe this is a new, fresh concept to explore, and even if people are upset, they'll get over it, given their audience's composition, basically so long as they tell the one thing via dialogue or commentary. It doesn't matter that much what they show in terms of actions. Honestly, they just should have not had Amy be pregnant yet. They filmed multiple endings to seasons before to account for whether they were going to be picked up or not. They easily could have done that last, well, within cost. They could have even had her go with him in that case, really play them up being a team and taking on the world. literally together, and then just had him decide to stay an extra few weeks or so while Amy came back earlier to account for any episodes off. It's interesting that they, suggested this because that was sort of what ended up happening in season 11, as we know. Then we had some little details about episode 6, The Green-Eyed Monster. The Green-Eyed Monster title references several things, but it's mostly about a horse/rider Amy works with, where the horse is discovered to be jealous of the rider's new baby. From an equestrian standpoint, it's going to potentially involve something cool, which I think they're making a nod to the archery. Another couple of things from episode 5 is tentatively titled Something to Prove. I won't spoil the details for you, but in it, we're going to meet a relative of Lisa's that gives her and Jack some grief, which was obviously Aunt Evelyn. So yeah, I knew that this was something that the Jack and Lisa fans were going to like. Then they continued also to spoil but keep it vague. Georgie and Adam team up on something. Amy has a scare of sorts, and Cass is no hard feelings about how Ty left. So I think with the Georgie Adam thing, they're referring to the mounted orienteering that they did in episode 5. And Amy having that fall or dragging situation with the horse in episode 5 as well. Then in June 2016, they said, on the early casting sheets I had, he was on for 16 episodes for this season. They're talking about Ty and Graham. But it was marked tentative/non-contractual, so that could change either way, more or less episodes depending on circumstances. For reference, last year, season 9, he was marked for 14 from the start, and it was marked contractual/budgetary, no tentative tag, though if I remember correctly, based on the parts of the scripts I had, they shuffled around when he was to miss them for reasons beyond my scope. Then they told about episode 8. This is going to be a heavy Jade episode, plus Jack gets an honor. Also, Will makes an appearance if they can get the actor. So this was referring to the Hall of Fame thing that they celebrated in episode 8. Tentative titles for episode 9 and 10 are A Horse with No Rider and Apart But Together, which they ended up being in the end. A tease of what's in them. Mongolia, Liberty Work, a rock slide and a car accident, an injury, twinges, Peter. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to put these clues together. Like, are they all connected somehow? Like Mongolia, Peter, what's going on? But obviously, Mongolia was Thai. Liberty Work was when Amy, Georgie, and Tim traveled to do a clinic, and then the rock slide happened, and there was the whole car accident because of it. They got a little injured, Tim especially. And Peter was there to sign the divorce papers. Also, since I just caught part of your conversation when I was scrolling my feed, I think the guy you are all talking about is Eric Gustafson, who's playing Clay, the relative of Casey's. And Scott and Cass are definitely not going there, not going to Mongolia. The scene brought up, if it's what I think it is work related. Then I was talking about, like, is Peter involved in the accident? They said Peter isn't in the accident. He's just in the episodes. Certain papers are to be signed. Not Ty either, the accident. We are seeing him over there, though, with Bob in these episodes. Ty is going to be missing in action for 3 episodes that I know of, but to out myself, I have no idea what the abbreviations on the updated casting sheet mean, so I can't say how many he's missing in total on the season with much certainty now. Also, 3 main characters are involved in the accident, so Amy, Georgie, Tim. The one who is injured, at least the injury I'm talking about, is too big for Georgie to carry/support, which I think they're referring to Tim hitting his head and being kind of out of it. Then back in September 2016, Georgie's also getting a new flirtation in the second half of the season. Another relative of Casey's shows up. Clay and Georgie's guy are cousins. Clay introduces him to Georgie, and obviously that ended up being Wyatt. Then there was some kind of tweet about beer chucking, so we were like, what's happening? Also, the beer chucking is mostly a Jade situation first half of the season. And then they teased about Ghost being back, so they said, also Ghost. When he shows up, he's fairly badly injured. Keep that in mind. Well, this is going on at the same time as Amy not being able to get a hold of him, meaning Ty. That's all I'm going to say for now, though. Then they continued, they went back through and blatantly added, let's call it content, to several episodes. I think this is referring to the parlor phone calls with Amy and Ty. I think they were expecting there to be pushback, so they thought that this would save the situation. Not sure about that, but nice try. They actually had to file for permission to show the interface on screen. Not that that is all exciting of a tidbit. It's because of the copyright on the software/interface itself. Sort of like why Georgie's video of Adam last season was on some made-up version of YouTube instead of YouTube itself. They never got permission to use actual YouTube, whereas they got it to use actual Skype this season if they wanted. Then between these clues and the next clues, I traveled to Canada. I had some idea about what's to come, but also not knowing how the season would end. November 2016, barring major rewrites to the White script, the cliffhanger, if it's what I think is being referred to, there's something else going on with someone else. That isn't wrapped up too, but I'm skeptical of how much interest it will drive. Is Tammy related? I will add, while being as vague as possible, don't look for the baby to be born for real until closer to the end of the season. I'm sure I've said this before, but the timeline is significantly different this year and not necessarily linear. She's still pregnant when Ghost shows up injured, and Ty is still in Mongolia. That's episode 15. So yeah, it was really hard to sort of get into the timeline in season 10 because usually the timeline follows when they film. So usually the beginning of the season would be May or something like that. But then we know that Amy announced her pregnancy during the New Year's celebration. So for her to know that, she would already have to be a few weeks along. So then in episode 1, or I think they said that she's 3 months along or something like that. And, they stopped filming like late 2016. So her pregnancy was insanely long. Maybe that's how Miracle Girls sort of prepare their babies for the world. I don't know, but it was very frustrating trying to think how the end of the pregnancy ended up being, because Ty said he wasn't going to be away that long, and then it ended up actually being for months. So yeah, the timeline in season 10 is so messed up. But apparently Lindy was born right at the beginning of October. This was confirmed by the interactive producer at the time, when in reality, Amy's pregnancy lasted almost a year. And then they had a little teases of episode 15 scripts that they posted to me. One of them says, Georgie makes her way out of the loft as Amy hurries to her laptop and dials Ty. No answer again. We go out on Amy's growing frustration and concern. This was when Ghost was hanging around and she didn't get a hold of Ty, and at the end of the episode it was Bob who answered the call, and yeah, the rest is history. And another one from episode 15, which I found interesting looking back, was when Ghost was injured, and then in the show Amy, Jack, and Cassandra go after him to help him. In the first scripts, Cassandra was actually going to be Scott. So the scripts says, woods clearing near Heartland, daytime. Scott finishes suturing Ghost's chest wounds. Okay, he's good to go, at least once the sedative has worn off. Amy says, how long will that take? Scott says, a while yet. We'll stay with him until he can get on his feet. And then Amy says, do you think, can I be alone with him for a minute? So I always thought it was very interesting that Cassandra was actually allowed to do the vet stuff. This season, I feel like maybe most of the stuff that they had planned was actually meant for Scott, but then couldn't get Nathaniel. So they were like, well, it's a good thing we have Cass. But I remember thinking, without remembering that part of the script, that it was actually so exciting to see Cass, getting a little dirty in the woods and actually do some vet stuff. So that explains they would only write the good stuff for Scott, but then he's not available. So let's have Cassandra. I hope you enjoyed that little walk back in the past and it gave you some new trivia or perspective or whatever. Until next week, keep your noses clean and your powder dry, as they say. Bye.